The day my family declared me dead, I wore my favorite navy blazer and pearl earrings. I thought dressing professionally might help them take me seriously. I was wrong. My name is Genesis, and 2 years ago, I sat across from my parents at our family's cherished mahogany dining table, watching their faces transform from expectation to disgust as I delivered my decision. What do you mean you won't help pay for Brandon's medical school? Mom's voice cracked, her fingers gripping her coffee mug so tight I thought it might shatter. He's your brother. I've already explained this, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. My startup needs every penny of investment capital I have. Brandon can take out loans like I did for my MBA. Dad slammed his palm against the table, making the silverware jump. This is not a discussion, Genesis. This is family obligation. Your brother needs you. I straightened my blazer, a gesture that had become my armor in tough business meetings. And what about my needs? When I needed help with my business loan last year, you both said I had to stand on my own feet. That was different, Mom interjected, her eyes narrowing. This is medical school. Brandon will be saving lives. And I'm building technology that could revolutionize healthcare accessibility, I countered. But that didn't matter when I asked for help, did it? Brandon, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. Come on, sis. You know I'd help you if I could. Would you? I turned to face him. Because I remember asking to borrow your car when mine broke down during my final semester, and you said no because you needed it for your dates. That was years ago, he protested. Enough! Dad's voice boomed through the room. Genesis, you have two choices. Either you help your brother, or you're no longer part of this family. The silence that followed felt like a physical weight. I looked at each of their faces. Mom's tight-lipped disappointment, Dad's rigid anger, Brandon's calculated puppy dog eyes. In that moment, I saw them clearly for the first time. You know what's funny? I said, standing slowly. You're so convinced I'm the selfish one, but none of you have asked about my company, about the years of work I've put in, about why this investment matters so much to me. Because family comes first, Mom shouted, tears streaming down her face. No, I replied, my voice eerily calm. Control comes first. It always has. I reached for my purse, my hand steady despite the earthquake in my chest. I love you all, but I won't set myself on fire to keep Brandon warm. Not anymore. Then you are no daughter of mine, Dad declared, his voice ice cold. From this moment on, you are dead to us, Mom gasped, but didn't contradict him. Brandon looked away, suddenly fascinated by the pattern on his plate. I walked to the door, each step echoing in the deadly quiet house. At the threshold, I turned back one last time. You know what the difference is between me and Brandon? I never expected anyone to carry me. Maybe that's why I'm the disappointment. The door clicked shut behind me with a finality that felt like a period at the end of a very long sentence. In my car, I sat motionless, watching the sunset behind our suburban home, painting the sky in shades of fury and freedom. My phone buzzed, a text from Zariah. How did it go? I typed back, they chose Brandon. Again, coming over. 20 minutes later, I sat on Zariah's couch, mascara streaking my cheeks as I told her everything. She listened, poured wine, and finally said what I needed to hear. You know what this means, right? She handed me a tissue. Now you have nothing left to lose. No more expectations to meet. No more family guilt to carry. You're free to build something extraordinary. I wiped my eyes, smudging expensive makeup across my sleeve. You think I made the right choice? I think you made the only choice you could live with, she replied. And I think they just made the biggest mistake of their lives. Looking back now, I realized that day wasn't just an ending, it was a beginning. The day my family declared me dead was the day I truly started living. But they didn't know what I knew. That sometimes the dead don't stay buried. Sometimes they rise up and build empires. And that's exactly what I was going to do. 2 years can change everything. I stood in my downtown office, staring at the Seattle skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows, watching my reflection smile back at me. My company, Access Care, had just closed its third round of funding. Genesis! Zariah burst through the door, waving her tablet. Have you seen the conference lineup? You're going to flip. I'm still recovering from this morning's investor meeting, I laughed, turning to face her. Solomon practically danced when we signed those papers. Forget the investors, she thrust the tablet at me. Look at who's speaking at Tech Forward this year. I scanned the list, my heart stopping at one particular name. Morgan McCoy. The Morgan McCoy is keynoting. Keep reading. There it was, in black and white. Special guest speaker, Genesis Hamilton, CEO of Access Care, revolutionizing healthcare access through AI. Holy shit, I whispered, gripping the tablet tighter. How did this happen? Solomon pulled some strings. Zariah grinned, perching on my desk. He says it's time to announce our expansion plans to the world. And what better place than the biggest tech conference on the West Coast? My phone buzzed. Speaking of Solomon. Get down here, his text read. Celebration time. We took the elevator to the building's rooftop restaurant, where Solomon waited with champagne and that characteristic twinkle in his eye. At 48, he had the energy of someone half his age and twice my wisdom. There's my rising star, he called out, pulling me into a quick hug. Though I suppose I should say shooting star now. I still can't believe you did this, I said, accepting a champagne flute. Tech Forward is impossible to get into as a speaker. Not when you've got the hottest healthcare AI platform in the country, he winked. Besides, Morgan McCoy's been sniffing around our technology. This puts us in the perfect position to negotiate. Or to get crushed by their corporate machine, I pointed out. Please, Zariah scoffed. They wish they had your algorithms. Their platform is clunky compared to Access Care. Solomon raised his glass. To Genesis, who proved that sometimes the best revenge is massive success. I froze mid-sip. This isn't about revenge. No? Solomon's eyebrows rose. Then you haven't been tracking your family's business lately? My stomach tightened. What about it? Their medical supply company is struggling, Zariah said quietly. Word is, they're losing contracts left and right to more tech-savvy competitors. I set my glass down harder than intended. I don't want to know this. You need to know this, Solomon insisted, because they're going to be at Tech Forward. Your father registered last week. The city's skyline suddenly seemed to spin. How do you know that? Because I'm your mentor, and it's my job to prepare you for every possibility. He touched my arm gently. You're going to see them, Genesis. Better to be ready than blindsided. I can't do this, I muttered, pacing to the railing. I can't stand up there knowing they're watching. Yes, you can. Zariah appeared beside me. And you're going to knock it out of the park. Remember what you told me last month about why we built Access Care? I nodded slowly. Because everyone deserves quality health care, regardless of location or income. Exactly. This isn't about your family anymore. It's about all the families who need what we've built. Solomon joined us at the railing. You know what the best part is? You did this without them. Every bit of it. The algorithms, the partnerships, the funding. That was all you. And me, Zariah added with a smirk. Don't forget your brilliant PR director. I laughed despite myself, feeling the panic subside. What would I do without you two? Probably still be coding in your garage, Zariah teased. My phone buzzed again. An email this time. The conference organizers wanted my presentation outline by Friday. As I stared at the screen, something shifted inside me. 2 years ago, I'd walked away from my family's table, feeling like my world was ending. Now I was preparing to step onto one of the biggest stages in tech. Okay, I straightened up, squaring my shoulders. If we're doing this, we're doing it right. Solomon, I want to announce the Rural Healthcare Initiative at the conference. Zariah, we need a media strategy that'll make Access Care impossible to ignore. They exchanged knowing looks. There's our CEO, Solomon raised his glass again, to making the impossible impossible to ignore. We clinked glasses as the sun set behind Seattle's towers, painting the sky in shades of possibility. Let them come, I thought. Let them see exactly what their dead daughter built from the ashes of their rejection. This time, I'd be the one doing the shocking. The Tech Forward Conference Center buzzed with energy, its massive lobby filled with the tech industry's brightest minds. I adjusted my microphone pack, trying to focus on Zariah's last-minute briefing rather than scanning the crowd for familiar faces. Remember, she said, tapping her tablet, Morgan McCoy's team requested a private meeting after your keynote. Solomon thinks, they're here. I cut her off, my voice barely a whisper. Near the registration desk, my parents stood examining their conference badges. Mom wore her signature pearl necklace, the one she'd promised would be mine someday. Dad looked older, his hair grayer than I remembered. They hadn't spotted me yet. Want to duck into the green room? Zariah offered, already moving to shield me. No, I straightened my spine. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. As if on cue, Solomon appeared beside us. There's my star speaker, ready to revolutionize healthcare? His booming voice carried across the lobby. I saw my mother's head snap up, her eyes widening as she spotted me. She clutched Dad's arm, whispering something that made him turn. Our eyes met across the crowded space. 2 years of silence collapsed into a single moment. Genesis! A young reporter approached, notebook in hand. Could we get a quick comment about Access Care's rural health care initiative? I turned to her with my best media smile, acutely aware of my parents' stares. Of course, Access Care believes geography shouldn't determine quality of care. Our new AI-driven platform will connect remote communities with top specialists worldwide. And how does it feel being the youngest keynote speaker in Tech Forward's history? I laughed, the sound carrying across the lobby. It feels like validation. When I started Access Care, many people said it couldn't be done, but here we are. More reporters gathered, forming a small crowd. Through gaps between them, I caught glimpses of my parents' faces, Mom's mouth slightly open, Dad's frown deepening. Ms. Hamilton, another reporter called out, your company's valuation just hit $1 billion. Did you expect this level of success? Success isn't about expectations, I replied, thinking of family dinners and slammed doors. It's about persistence, about believing in your vision even when no one else does. Solomon stepped forward. I'm afraid we need to prep for the keynote. Genesis will be taking more questions after her presentation. As the crowd dispersed, I saw Brandon had joined our parents. He wore scrubs under his conference jacket. Apparently, he'd made it to medical school after all. Good for him. Genesis, Zariah touched my arm. The tech check starts in 10 minutes. I saw them, I said quietly. Did you see how they looked at me? Like they were seeing a ghost, she nodded. A very successful, powerful ghost. We headed toward the main hall, but a voice stopped us. Genesis, wait! Mom stood a few feet away, her hand outstretched. Dad and Brandon hung back, watching. You look... She paused, searching for words. You look wonderful. Thank you, I replied, my voice steady. I hope you enjoy the conference. We didn't know you'd be speaking, she said quickly, as if afraid I'd walk away. Your father's company is exploring digital solutions, and when we saw Tech Forward advertised, I'm afraid I need to prepare for my keynote, I cut her off gently. But please, stay for the presentation. I think you'll find it interesting. Genesis, she stepped closer, lowering her voice. Can we talk? After? As a family? I felt Zariah tense beside me, ready to intervene, but I didn't need protection anymore. I have meetings scheduled after the keynote, I said, important ones, about the future of my company. Mom's face fell. Of course, you're very important now. I always was, I replied. Some people just couldn't see it. I turned away, but not before catching Dad's expression, a mixture of pride and regret that hit me harder than his anger ever had. In the green room, I gripped the edge of the makeup counter, breathing deeply. You okay? Zariah asked, watching me in the mirror. You know what's crazy? I turned to her. Part of me wanted them to look disappointed, to still think I'd fail. But seeing Mom's face, Dad's expression, they looked proud, like they wanted to claim credit for my success. After everything they did, that's just it. I laughed bitterly. They don't even realize what they did. To them, this validates their tough love, proves they were right to cut me off. Solomon knocked and entered. 5 minutes to showtime. Ready to show them what real success looks like? I stood, smoothing my blazer, a different navy one, but the gesture still felt like armor. Ready to show them what I built, I corrected him. Without their help, without their approval, and without their love, the stage lights beckoned through the green room door. It was time to tell my story, not as their daughter, but as myself. When I was 12, I began, standing center stage under the bright lights. I broke my arm falling from a tree. The nearest specialist was 3 hours away. That 3-hour drive shaped my future. And Access Care's mission. 2,000 faces stared back at me. Somewhere in that sea of people sat my family. But I focused on the giant screens displaying my presentation. Today, we're eliminating those 3-hour drives. Our AI platform connects patients with specialists instantly, regardless of location. I clicked to the next slide, showing Access Care's interface. But we're not just building software, we're building bridges. The presentation flowed smoothly as I demonstrated our technology. Every practice run with Zariah, every late-night revision with Solomon had prepared me for this moment. Last month, a girl in rural Montana broke her arm, I continued, pulling up a testimonial. Instead of a 3-hour drive, her local doctor connected with an orthopedic specialist through Access Care. Treatment began immediately. That's not just convenience. That's revolutionary care. From the corner of my eye, I caught movement in the front row. Morgan McCoy leaned forward, studying the platform metrics on screen. Her company had been trying to crack rural healthcare for years. But we're not stopping there, I smiled, clicking to our announcement slide. Today, I'm proud to introduce Access Care's Rural Health Initiative. We're pledging $50 million to bring our platform to underserved communities nationwide. The audience erupted in applause. In the middle section, I glimpsed my mother's face, illuminated by the stage lights. She was crying. Questions? I asked, as the applause died down. Hands shot up across the auditorium. I pointed to a woman in a red blazer. How will you handle internet connectivity issues in rural areas? Excellent question, I nodded. We've partnered with satellite internet providers to ensure stable connections. Plus, our platform works on minimal bandwidth. The next question came from Morgan herself. Impressive infrastructure. But how are you handling liability issues when specialists consult across state lines? I'd prepared for this. Our legal team has secured multi-state licensing agreements. We're also working with state medical boards to streamline the process. The questions continued for 20 minutes. I answered each one confidently, watching Morgan take notes. Finally, the moderator called time. Thank you all, I concluded. Together, we can ensure that quality healthcare isn't a privilege of geography. The standing ovation felt like a wave crashing over me. As I left the stage, Zariah waited with a bottle of water and a huge grin. You crushed it, she squealed, hugging me. Morgan McCoy couldn't take her eyes off the revenue projections. Speaking of which, Solomon approached, looking pleased. She's waiting in the executive lounge, ready for round 2. I took a deep breath. Let's do this. We headed toward the lounge, but a familiar voice stopped us. Genesis. Brandon stood nearby, still in his scrubs. That was incredible. The platform, the rural initiative, It's amazing. Thanks, I said cautiously. How's medical school? Good. Hard. He shifted uncomfortably. Look, about what happened. I have a meeting, I cut him off. A really important one. Mom and Dad want to talk, he blurted out. They're different now. The business struggles changed them. Solomon stepped forward. I'm sorry, but Ms. Hamilton has a meeting with Morgan McCoy that can't wait. Brandon's eyes widened at the name. Right, of course, but maybe later. I'll think about it, I said, already moving past him. In the executive lounge, Morgan McCoy stood examining the Seattle skyline. She turned as we entered, her expression unreadable. Impressive presentation, she said, extending her hand, particularly the rural initiative. Thank you. I shook her hand firmly. I admired your work with urban clinics last year. Let's cut to the chase. She sat down, gesturing for us to do the same. Your AI algorithms are better than ours. Our market penetration is stronger than yours. I think we both know where this conversation is heading. Solomon leaned forward. We're listening. A merger, Morgan stated simply. Your technology, our infrastructure. We could revolutionize healthcare delivery nationwide. I felt my pulse quicken. And the rural initiative would become our top priority, she assured me, with 10 times the current funding. Interesting, I said carefully. And leadership structure? You join our executive board, she smiled, with full autonomy over the Access Care division. Solomon touched my arm gently, our signal to step back and consider. We'll need time to review the details, I said, standing. Of course, Morgan handed me a folder. The preliminary offer's inside, but don't take too long. Opportunities like this move fast. As we left the lounge, I caught a glimpse of my parents in the lobby below. They were watching me through the glass walls, their expressions a mix of pride and regret. Well, Zariah whispered, still think this isn't about revenge? I clutched Morgan's folder tighter. No, it's about something much bigger now. The future was suddenly wide open, and for the first time, I held all the cards. The hotel bar was quiet, just the soft clink of glasses and murmured conversations. I sat at a corner table, nursing a gin and tonic, reviewing Morgan's merger proposal when they found me. Genesis? Mom's voice was soft, hesitant. May we join you? I looked up to find both my parents standing there, looking somehow smaller than I remembered. Dad clutched a manila envelope like a lifeline. Sure, I gestured to the empty chairs. Why not? They sat awkwardly, like strangers at a business meeting. In a way, that's exactly what we were. Your presentation was remarkable, Dad said, his voice gruff. The technology, the vision, it's incredible. Thank you. I closed Morgan's folder. How's your company doing? They exchanged glances. Mom's hand trembled as she reached for her water. That's actually why we wanted to talk. Dad placed the manila envelope on the table. We're losing contracts, major ones. Hospitals want integrated digital solutions, not just supplies. I know, I said quietly. Industry news travels fast. We need help, Mom burst out, her composure cracking. Not just money. We need your expertise, your technology. We're drowning, Genesis. I sat back, letting their desperation hang in the air. 2 years ago, I needed help. What did you tell me? We were wrong, Dad's voice broke. So terribly wrong. About everything. Including Brandon's medical school? I couldn't help asking. Mom looked down. He dropped out last semester. Said his heart wasn't in it. That surprised me. What's he doing now? Working as a pharmaceutical rep, Dad sighed. At least he's still in healthcare, sort of. And now you're here, I tapped Morgan's folder, because you need something from me. Because we miss you. Mom reached for my hand, but I pulled back. The business, it's just an excuse to talk to you. Really? I raised an eyebrow. So you didn't register for Tech Forward specifically to pitch me on saving your company? Dad's silence was answer enough. Here's what I don't understand, I leaned forward. You threw me away, declared me dead, but the moment you need something, I'm suddenly your daughter again? We were proud today, Mom whispered, watching you on that stage. You were magnificent. I was magnificent 2 years ago, too, I replied. When I launched Access Care, when I secured my first funding round, when I needed my family's support. Where were you then? Being foolish, Dad admitted. Being stubborn and traditional and wrong. A server appeared, asking if we wanted another round. I ordered a double. You know what the worst part is? I continued after he left. I would have helped Brandon if you'd asked instead of demanded. If you'd supported my dreams the way you supported his. We know that now, Mom wiped her eyes. Seeing you today, understanding what you've built, we were so blind. I opened their envelope, scanning the proposal inside. Their company was worth saving. The infrastructure and relationships were solid. They just needed to evolve. Access Care is in merger talks, I said finally, with Morgan McCoy's company. They both stiffened. But, I continued, we're also exploring acquisition opportunities, smaller companies with strong market presence that need modernization. Hope flickered in Dad's eyes. You mean, I'm not doing this for you, I cut him off. I'm doing it because your company has value, and integrating it into Access Care's supply chain makes business sense. Whatever your reasons, Dad's voice was thick with emotion. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I pulled out my phone, texting Solomon. My team will audit everything first. If we move forward, it will be strictly business. No special treatment, no family discounts. Mom nodded eagerly. Of course. Anything you say. And one more thing. I met their eyes in turn. This doesn't fix us. Business is business. Family is something else entirely. We understand, Dad said quietly. But maybe it's a start. The server brought my double gin and tonic. I took a long sip, remembering all the family dinners, all the expectations, all the pain. Maybe, I conceded, but on my terms this time. Your terms, Mom agreed immediately. Always your terms. My phone buzzed. Solomon confirming he'd review their proposal tomorrow. I stood, gathering Morgan's folder and my purse. I'll have my team contact you about the audit, I said professionally. Try not to lose any more contracts before then. As I turned to leave, Mom called out softly, We love you, Genesis. We never stopped. I paused, not turning back. Love without respect isn't love at all. It's just control wearing a prettier name. Walking away, I felt lighter somehow. Not healed, not yet. But something had shifted. Maybe it was seeing them humbled. Maybe it was finally having the power to help or hurt them and choosing help anyway. Or maybe it was simply knowing that this time I was the one walking away on my own terms. You're out of your mind, Soraya declared, pacing my hotel suite. Acquiring your parents' company? After everything they did? I lay sprawled on the couch, heels kicked off, staring at the ceiling. It makes business sense. Screw business sense. She stopped pacing to face me. What about emotional sense? That's why I need you to talk me out of it. I sat up. Tell me I'm crazy. Tell me I'm letting them manipulate me again. Soraya sat beside me, her expression softening. Okay, let's break this down. What did Solomon say? He's reviewing their financials now. Says their distribution network could cut our implementation costs by 30%. And Morgan's offer? I pulled out her folder. The merger would be huge, but we'd lose autonomy, become another corporate division. While acquiring your parents' company would keep you in control, Soraya nodded thoughtfully, and give you power over them. This isn't about power, I protested. Isn't it? She raised an eyebrow, because from where I'm sitting, it looks a lot like... A knock interrupted us. Solomon entered, looking unusually serious. We need to talk, he said, closing the door. Morgan just called. She's sweetening the deal. I sat straighter. How? Double the rural initiative funding, full autonomy over product development, and, he paused dramatically, she wants you as COO of the merged company. Holy shit, Zariah whispered. But, I prompted, knowing Solomon's tone, but she wants an answer by morning, and she made it clear, if we acquire your parents' company, the merger's off. She won't touch anything with that kind of family drama. I stood walking to the window. Seattle's lights twinkled below, each one representing someone who might need access care someday. What's your gut telling you? Solomon asked quietly. That's the problem, I turned back. My gut's confused. My head says take Morgan's offer. It's bigger, cleaner, safer. But your heart? Zariah pressed. My heart remembers being 12 with a broken arm, remembers Dad driving 3 hours, telling me stories to distract from the pain. I swallowed hard. They weren't always terrible parents. No, Solomon agreed, just terribly human. My phone buzzed. A text from Brandon. Can we talk? Just us? Go, Zariah urged. You need all the pieces before deciding. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Brandon in the hotel's all-night diner. He changed out of his scrubs into jeans and a worn college sweatshirt. So, I stirred my coffee. Pharmaceutical rep? He grimaced. Yeah, turns out medical school was more their dream than mine. How'd they take it when you dropped out? Better than expected, he shrugged. Maybe losing you taught them something. I set my spoon down carefully. Why are you here, Brandon? To apologize. He met my eyes. I let them put everything on you. The expectations, the pressure, the family name. I took advantage of it. Yes, you did. And now, he continued, I need to tell you something about their company. Something they won't. I leaned forward. I'm listening. They're not just losing contracts. He glanced around before lowering his voice. They're being investigated for billing irregularities. Nothing criminal, just sloppy bookkeeping, but enough to tank any merger or acquisition, I finished. Does Solomon know? The investigation isn't public yet. I only know because I overheard Dad on the phone. I sat back, processing. Why tell me this? Because you deserve the whole truth before deciding, he said simply. And because I'm trying to be the brother I should have been 2 years ago. My phone buzzed again. Solomon asking to meet urgently. Probably found the investigation himself. I have to go. I stood, then paused. Thank you for telling me. Genesis? Brandon called as I turned to leave. Whatever you decide, I'm proud to be your brother, even if I didn't act like it before. Back in my suite, Solomon and Zariah waited with grim expressions. You found it? I asked. Solomon nodded. The investigation's worse than it appears. Their entire billing system needs overhaul. Morgan's offer is looking better by the minute, Zariah noted. I picked up both folders, Morgan's and my parents'. 2 paths forward, 2 very different futures. You know what's ironic? I said finally. They always taught us to clean up our own messes, to take responsibility. Genesis, Solomon warned. Don't let sentiment cloud. It's not sentiment, I cut him off. It's strategy. Their company has problems, yes, but also solutions we need. Distribution networks, established relationships, market presence. And the investigation? Zariah asked. I smiled, an idea forming. What if that's exactly why we should acquire them? Not despite their problems, but because of them. Solomon's eyes lit up as he caught my meaning. A rescue acquisition, with very specific terms. Very specific terms, I agreed, already reaching for my laptop. Let's draft an offer they can't refuse. Or rather, one they'll have to accept on my terms. The night stretched ahead, full of possibilities and payback, but not the kind they'd expect. The conference room felt too small for all the tension it contained. My parents sat across the table, Morgan McCoy to my right, Solomon to my left. Zariah stood by the door, tablet ready. Let me make sure I understand, Morgan said, her voice carefully controlled. You're declining my offer to pursue an acquisition of your family's company instead? Not exactly, I smiled, sliding 2 folders across the table. I'm proposing something better. Everyone reached for a folder except my parents, who seemed frozen in place. A 3-way partnership? Morgan's eyebrows shot up as she read. Access Care's technology, my infrastructure, their distribution network. With some conditions, I nodded, turning to my parents. The investigation into your billing practices ends today, because as of this morning, your entire system is being replaced with Access Care's automated platform. Dad's hands trembled as he finally opened the folder. This isn't just an acquisition. No, I confirmed. It's a complete restructuring. Your company becomes a subsidiary of Access Care, which then partners with Morgan's Corporation for nationwide distribution. The numbers work, Solomon added, pointing to the projections. Combined, we could reach rural communities faster than any competitor. Morgan leaned back, studying me. And leadership structure? I remain CEO of Access Care with full autonomy. You head national distribution, and my parents. I met their anxious gazes, stepped down to advisory roles only. What? Mom's voice cracked. It's non-negotiable, I said firmly. The billing investigation proves you need fresh management. Brandon's already agreed to join our sales team, reporting to Zariah. You discussed this with Brandon? Dad asked. He's the one who told me about the investigation, I replied. He chose honesty. Now you can choose dignity. Silence fell as they absorbed the implications. Morgan broke it first. I'm in, she declared, uncapping her pen. This is better than my original offer. We all win. Do we? Mom asked quietly. We lose our company. You save your company, I corrected her. The investigation would have destroyed it. This way, your employees keep their jobs, your legacy continues, and your reputation remains intact. Under your control, Dad noted. Yes, I met his eye steadily. Under my control. Ironic, isn't it? Solomon cleared his throat. The papers need signing today. The market won't wait. Neither will the investigators, Zariah added pointedly. My parents exchanged long looks, having one of their silent conversations I remembered from childhood. Finally, Dad reached for a pen. You've become quite the businesswoman, he said, voice rough with emotion. I learned from watching you, I replied. Both the good and the bad. Mom wiped her eyes as she signed. Will we still see you? Quarterly board meetings, I said. Annual shareholders meetings. Christmas, maybe, if you respect my boundaries. And the family dinners? She pressed. The Sunday brunches? Have to be earned back, I finished. One step at a time. Morgan signed with a flourish, then stood. I'll have my team start implementation immediately. Genesis, dinner next week to discuss strategy? I nodded, watching her leave. Solomon gathered the signed papers, squeezing my shoulder as he followed her out. Zariah gave me a questioning look, but I waved her off. I needed this last moment with my parents. You planned this all along, didn't you? Dad asked once we were alone. From the moment we approached you at the conference? No, I said honestly. But when Brandon told me about the investigation, I saw an opportunity to fix everything. The company, the family, the future. By taking control, Mom said softly. By taking responsibility, I corrected. Something you taught me, remember? Before you forgot it yourselves, Dad reached across the table, palm up. After a moment's hesitation, I placed my hand in his. I am so sorry, he whispered, for everything, for not seeing you, for not supporting you, for letting pride blind me to your brilliance. I know, I squeezed his hand once before pulling back. But sorry isn't enough anymore. Actions matter more than words. Tell us what to do, Mom pleaded. How to make this right. I stood, smoothing my blazer. Start by trusting me to run the company. Then work on trusting me to run my life. The rest, we'll figure out along the way. At the door, I paused. Oh, and Mom, keep the pearl necklace. I've got my own style now. Walking out, I heard her choked laugh behind me. It sounded like hope, fragile and uncertain, but real. In the elevator, Zariah waited with 2 glasses of champagne. To the new CEO of the largest healthcare technology network in the Pacific Northwest, she grinned. I clinked my glass against hers. To fixing what's broken, in business and in life. The elevator descended toward the lobby, toward the future I'd built from the ashes of their rejection. But this time, I wasn't walking away. This time, I was leading the way forward. The autumn wind whipped around the Access Care building as I swiped into our newly renovated offices. The merger integration had transformed more than just our company. It had transformed everything. Morning, sis, Brandon called from the sales floor, surrounded by monitors displaying our rural coverage map. Red dots showed new healthcare connections blooming across previously underserved areas. How's the Montana rollout going? I asked, pausing at his desk. Ahead of schedule, he grinned. That girl with the broken arm, her clinic just signed up 20 others in the region. Good work, I squeezed his shoulder. Keep it up. In my office, Zariah waited with Solomon and Morgan, all gathered around a familiar mahogany table, the one from my parents' dining room, now repurposed for board meetings. Ready for the quarterly review? Solomon asked, sliding me a coffee. Almost, I replied. Are they here? In the waiting room, Zariah confirmed. Your call. I took a deep breath. Bring them in. Mom and Dad entered, looking more relaxed than I'd seen them in years. 3 months of stepping back had done them good. The numbers look strong, Dad said, taking his seat. The automated billing system has eliminated all the previous issues. And the rural initiative? I prompted. Exceeding projections, Mom reported proudly. The distribution network you inherited from us is finally being used to its full potential. Morgan pulled up our latest statistics. Access Care now serves over 1,000 rural communities. Patient wait times have dropped by 60%. Speaking of waiting, Zariah interjected with a knowing smile, there's someone else here to see you, Genesis. The door opened again. A young girl with a bright pink cast walked in, accompanied by her mother and their small-town doctor, connected through our platform to specialists worldwide. Sarah? I stood, recognizing her from the case files. What brings you to Seattle? I wanted to thank you. She held up her healing arm. And show you something. She pulled out her tablet, displaying a school presentation titled, How Technology Saved My Arm. The slides showed Access Care's interface, the remote specialist consultation, the immediate treatment that prevented complications. I got an A+, she beamed, and I decided I want to be a doctor when I grow up. A rural doctor, like Dr. Peterson here. Dr. Peterson stepped forward. Thanks to Access Care, rural medicine isn't isolated anymore. We're part of something bigger. I glanced around the table, at Morgan's satisfied smile, Solomon's proud nod, my parents' tearful eyes, Brandon's gentle grin. This was what success really looked like. Not revenge, not power, but positive change. Sarah, I said, would you like to see how the technology works? Can I? She bounced excitedly. Brandon, give her the tour, I suggested. Show her how we're connecting doctors across the country. As they left, Mom touched my hand tentatively. This is more than we ever dreamed for the company. It's more than I dreamed too, I admitted. Sometimes the best future isn't the one we plan. Speaking of plans, Dad cleared his throat. Your mother and I were hoping, that is, if you're not too busy. Sunday brunch? I finished for him. I think I'm ready for that. Zariah squeezed my arm supportively as tears sprang to Mom's eyes. Really? She whispered. Really, I nodded. But not at the house. Neutral ground. That little cafe by the water. Whatever you want, Dad agreed quickly. Whatever makes you comfortable. Morgan stood, gathering her papers. Well, I think that concludes our official business. Genesis, dinner tomorrow to discuss the East Coast expansion? Actually, I smiled, why don't you all come to brunch on Sunday? Zariah, Solomon, you too. Family isn't just about blood anymore. Later, standing at my office window, I watched Sarah and Brandon exploring the tech hub. Her pink cast a bright spot of color against the gray Seattle sky. Zariah joined me, coffee in hand. You know what I just realized? She mused. That girl with the broken arm? She's the same age you were when you broke yours. Full circle, I nodded, but with a better ending. Better beginning, she corrected. For her, for the company, for your family. I touched the window, my reflection overlaying the city beyond. You know what else? I never needed their approval. I needed my own. And now? Now I have something better than approval. I turned to face her. I have respect, theirs and mine. Below, Sarah was showing Brandon her presentation, her uninjured arm gesturing animatedly. He looked up, caught my eye, and waved. I waved back, thinking of broken arms and broken families, of healing bones and healing hearts. Some breaks make us stronger in the mended places, and sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building something so beautiful that even those who hurt you want to be part of it.